If you're trying to vibe code and you constantly keep running into errors and you're just getting stuck in these error loops, there's a very simple reason why your apps keep breaking. And that reason is you don't actually know what the AI tool is doing under the hood. This is the most common problem that I see with people trying to vibe code their way through all these different applications, is that you'll see these YouTube videos, you'll read articles, you'll hear people on podcasts talk about how they were able to build an application from scratch, start to finish, without knowing how to code by vibe coding. I think what's happening here is a few different things. One, I think a lot of these people are underestimating how much they actually know about code and how the internet works and how web applications work. And so they're underestimating how much of that knowledge that they've spent building up over the years is sort of infiltrating into how they're prompting to where they're prompting effectively. Two, I think that we tend to over-rely on these success stories in AI, and we like to see these cool YouTube videos and these polished applications, and we hear these people talk about how they were able to just build them with a prompt, and then we go and we try to recreate it, and stuff ends up falling apart or breaking. And so the simple fact is, this is happening because you don't know what's actually happening under the hood. AI is not meant as a replacement for knowing how to code, but what it does do, I think, really, really well is it extremely heavily amplifies your ability to code. However, I don't think it replaces the need to know how to code. I still think you need to know how to code, at least at a basic level, in order to effectively vibe code things. So right here, what I have in front of me is something on V0. This was a super simple application that I made just before starting this video. And I was able to create this successfully with no errors with a single prompt. And it was actually a pretty simple prompt. These tools are getting better and better. So basic prompt here was create a home maintenance tracker that allows me to automatically track all my home maintenance tasks. A couple things to note here. One, this is very simple. This is basically a glorified to-do list with a couple different components to it. So this is not super complicated. And if this was all you were trying to do, then maybe this would be great. And maybe it would be enough for you to kind of go through and iterate in the prompts here and say, actually, let's move this piece over here. Let's change this icon. This thing's not quite working. I noticed a small little bug here. For example, there's like two little settings gears instead of a check mark. That's probably stuff that might be relatively easy to fix. But if you ever want to build anything that is actually used by people, this is not going to cut it. If you ever want to build things that are actually used by even just yourself long term, or if you want to start up like a solo SaaS, or if you want to start doing freelance development for somebody, or if you're a product manager or something that wants to build an internal tool for your team to use, you need to know the basics of coding at least so that you can create stuff like this. Now, I'm not denying AI's ability to help make it so that we can create things without having to write the actual code. That's usually what I do. I strongly do believe that developers' roles are kind of transitioning into more of a code reviewer type of role, where we're telling the AI what to do, we're reviewing the code, and then having it make changes based on that. But the crucial step there is that you still need to review the code, and you still need to understand what it is doing under the hood. And so I want to offer a little bit of a different approach here for anybody that wants to get into vibe coding, that wants to start building things using these AI tools, because they are incredible. And they can literally 10 to maybe 100x our productivity and how quickly we're able to output things. Like even this, what I built here, like, yes, I know how to code and I could have built this, but it took me 2 minutes instead of taking, a couple hours or whatever. And so the tools are amazing, but they should not serve as a replacement for knowing how to code. So if you do want to build things that are actually useful, that actually work, that actually could be made into like production level applications, then that's what this video is kind of designed to cover briefly. So a couple different approaches we can take to vibe coding, or AI powered coding, whatever you want to call it. One is this. One is just the throw prompts at it, hope that it works out. When it runs into an error, just keep asking it to fix the error with the screenshot. You can probably get through that way and eventually get to something that resembles a working application. But there's a major problem with that, and it's going to be brittle. It's going to be a mess of spaghetti code. You're not going to know how it works under the hood. And so what's going to happen is the bigger it gets and the more complex it gets, and even just the more prompts you throw at it, the more brittle it's going to get. Because what happens is as these code bases get larger and larger, the AI struggles to keep that context more and more. And so if you don't have the context, you're not going to be able to direct the AI to the specific thing that it needs to change, and you're not even going to know what to ask it to change. And it's just going to end up blowing up into this spaghetti monstrosity of an application that is going to be highly breakable, super brittle, not something production ready at all. And even if you are only using it for personal use, as soon as you want to go past anything other than like the super basic 101 V1 version of whatever you're building, you're going to need to know a little bit of the fundamentals of coding to be able to do that. So the other ways that we can approach this are, let's say that I do want to build out this home maintenance tracker, but I want to do it in a way that's maintainable and that I can add to over time. Maybe I even want other people to start using it. Maybe I want to start up a little side project as a SaaS tool, whatever. The point is, I want it to be something that's actually useful, that's actually robust and well tested and resilient, whether I want that to be just used by me long term or somebody else. I can start like this. This is fine. But what I don't want to do then is I don't just want to go and just keep prompting until this looks right, and when I click on stuff, it works the right way. Because that's happening right now, and it may keep happening for a little while. What I want to do instead is one of two things. One, keep going with this prompt first approach and just go into the code and just see if I can figure out exactly what it's doing. So for example, in here, we can see that it uses React. Well, if I don't know how React works, I'm already off to a bad start. So the first thing I'd probably do is go find a tutorial and just learn the basics of what React is. But the problem with that is I need to build on top of the fundamentals of knowing how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript work before I know how React works and what React is actually for. So I could go in here and I could say, okay, I'm going to figure out, what is this page file doing? Page.tsx. What is this actually doing? Go in here, try to figure out what these import statements are, all this stuff. That is one way that you could do it, and you can use AI to help you with this too. That's one thing that I do like to do a lot, is to actually use AI as a coach. You can either do that right here in V0, you can do it in Cursor, you can do it in Claude, whatever. But you can use it to kind of explain the basics of what it's actually doing. So you could start with V0, ask it to build out a complete, super simple version of what you're trying to build, and then just the core thing to make sure that you do is to make sure that you understand what it is doing. If you can have AI generate something and then subsequently understand everything it generated, you're in a good spot. That's really the key thing that I'm trying to get across here, is that's the thing that you want to try to do, is just make sure that you understand what the AI is actually generating. The trap that we want to avoid falling into is having the AI generate stuff perpetually and only going based off of the visual cues or the actual interaction with the UI, just seeing if that seems to be working the way that it seems like it should, and going from there. You want to actually make sure you understand what it's doing. If you prefer a little bit more of a ground up, building on the fundamentals before you start building stuff approach, the other thing that you can do is, instead of having it build out the entire thing, you can start a little bit at a time. So I have another version of this over here where all I did was say, create the HTML structure for a home maintenance tracker that allows me to keep track of all the different tasks. And so what this ended up doing is this created a single HTML file. And so this can provide a really good starting point for you to go in and learn the fundamentals of how websites and web applications are actually put together. You can go through here, and even if you had to go through this one at a time, like one line at a time, yeah, it's a big file. It's 500 and something lines of code. But you could go through this and just figure out what each line is doing one at a time, and it'd probably take you a few days, and you'd have a really solid foundation on how websites and web applications are actually built that then you could go and take into directing and prompting your AI more effectively. The goal is not to become an expert developer or know enough code to be able to write all of this stuff from scratch, because I think that's the part that is fading away, is the writing all of this from scratch. The point is not to memorize syntax or know exactly what notation you need to write for a box shadow for CSS or anything like that. The point is to be familiar enough with what a CSS class is and what box shadow is actually doing, and the fundamentals of just building a well-designed UI. Again, not to become an expert designer, but to be familiar with just the basics of the rules of good UI, for example, and how CSS actually works and what the different classes and different CSS targets that you can apply, and the different properties and the values and everything, just to become familiar with them at a high level so that you can better direct AI to do what you need it to do. Learn how HTML is structured. Learn what semantic HTML means. Go down here. What is a body tag? What is a head tag? What is style? What is a div? What is a header? H1. Learn what all these tags are, just so that you are aware of how everything is put together. Then we can go down here and we can check out that it added some JavaScript. So HTML is the structure, CSS is the looks, the design, JavaScript is the functionality. So the next step would be to go through here, and you could learn the fundamentals of JavaScript by just running through and figuring out what this is doing. And again, that might be as simple as you grab this, you copy it, you go over to Claude or ChatGPT or whatever you like to use, and you say, I'm learning JavaScript. Can you help me understand this function? Paste it in, see what it gives you, and just make sure that you can understand exactly what's happening. So this is an event listener. Okay, document.add event listener. Add follow-up questions. What is document? If you want to go to the very basics, like what is this dot? What is document? What is add event listener? This is a function name. This is what we're applying the function to or calling the function on the document. But what is the document? Ask those follow-up questions and just see if you can figure out exactly what's happening here. But the point is we're starting simple. And then once you understand what all of this is actually doing, then maybe you're in a better place to go in and actually figure out, why isn't this showing up here? Like it says preview, but why isn't it showing up? If you don't have any foundation into what this did, you're going to be stuck with going, it's not showing up, and hoping that it can figure out exactly what it's doing here. And maybe it will, and maybe it won't. But what is almost definitely going to happen is that the more advanced and complex the stuff that you're building gets, it is almost never going to just continue to work out that you can just prompt your way to having it be a working application. As soon as you add a little bit of complexity, you're going to start to realize, oh crap, I don't actually know what I need to be changing here in order to get this to work. And so that's why I think everybody that's vibe coding needs to understand the basics and the fundamentals of code. And you can learn that on the go, like on the job as you're vibe coding, by just following that one simple rule of, when the AI generates something, do you know what it's doing? Do you know what it just generated? Do you know how it works? If you can answer yes to that, then you're in great shape, and you're going to really notice that your coding abilities, especially your AI coding abilities, are going to be increasing very, very quickly. So that's kind of the framework that I use to approach vibe coding and how you can fix this issue of just getting stuck in this endless error loop. There's not an easy fix. There's not a magic prompt that's going to fix it for you. You just need to understand the fundamentals of coding. If you're interested in doing that with me and with a group, by the way, I'm starting up a new community called Vibe Coders. The flagship course, the 30-day AI coding challenge, is in progress right now. You can get a massive discount on it by joining as I'm creating the content. Links down below in the description. So if you prefer to learn in more of like a structured environment with some help from me, from some other people, think about joining. But that's kind of the main thing that I wanted to leave you with today was, as you're vibe coding things and as you're doing AI generated code, just follow that rule of, do I know what the AI is actually doing? Do I understand what it's generating? If you can answer yes to that, you're going to be in really good shape. Good luck. Vibe coding's amazing. AI coding tools are awesome. I use them every day. They've massively increased my productivity. I just really want to help make sure that people aren't treating them as a replacement for coding, but as a supplement to it and as an amplifier for it. So go out, keep vibe coding, keep learning how to build stuff, keep building, keep creating. Just make sure you actually understand what it's doing.